This video is designed to give you the truth about fear of rejection, because there are some things that are true of people across cultures, across nationalities, across genders, races, orientation, anything else you can think of, because fundamentally Homo sapiens, human beings, are human beings, and there are certain things that are hardwired and true about all of us, no matter where we come from or what society we live in or anything else around us. Let's just recap for a second about where social fears and fear of rejection come from. They arise from a fear of not fitting in. So that we're rejected by the group, and by being rejected by the group we endanger our own survival, fundamentally. We have this drive, most of us have this drive to fit in with people and to comply with the social norms that are within the society or the firm or the group or the team or the set of people that we are spending time within. So you may have noticed that people say, be yourself. There's even the old quotation, above all else to thine own self be true. Which self? Because people talk about being themselves as though there's a self that is innate and unalterable. But if you look at the way people behave, you wouldn't think that was true. I suspect that you probably talk about different things in different ways with your friends over a few drinks when you're out for an evening than you do with your maiden aunt, your grandma, or a complete stranger. You probably behave slightly differently around somebody much older, much more senior, with much more authority than you do around a 10-year-old, whether you love and respect each of them or not. Status, age, context change our behaviour. They don't change who we are, but they do fundamentally change how we act, how we behave. So in a sense, who we're with and where we are and what the context is might not change who we are, but it changes who we present. It changes how we allow people to think we are. So that's a very different thing. And we also have this need, this compulsion to fit in with social norms, because at the back of our heads there's this question, this nagging question. Comes on like the Matrix here. There's a nagging question that sits in the back of all of our heads. Oh, what will people think of me? What will people think of me if I stand up on my hind legs, make a presentation, and it all goes... Oh, what will people think of me if I cold call them? Oh, what will that boy, girl think of me if I go and ask them for a date? What will they think of me? Well, the truth is, no one's thinking about you. Most of the time, people are not thinking about you. Even when you're talking with them, most people are not thinking about you. They're thinking about how to respond to you, or they're thinking about what you just said impacts on them. They're thinking about how what you're saying impacts them or means to them. Or in the old sales adage, what's in it for me? Now, I don't buy that completely, but you take the point. There's a quote from Coco Chanel. I don't care what you think about me, because I don't think about you at all. Let me repeat that one. I don't care what you think about me, because I don't think about you at all. Some research done in 2013 pointed out that 78% of what we talk about is ourselves. It's us. It's what we did, what we want, where we were, who we were with, what we know, what we think. We talk about our response to what other people say. We think about and we talk about what's going on around us, what has been happening, what's going to happen. We think about what you've just said means to me. We talk about ourselves. 78% of normal conversation is about you. Well, in my case, it's about me. And to be honest, it's probably a bit more than 78% in my case. But that's true of everybody. And that research was done in several countries, in several languages, in several cultures. It's independent of. So it's not just about them, it's about you. And that's what matters, isn't it? It's all about you. There's a second outcome from the same piece of research, which is that people anchor their view of the world. They anchor their expectations and their beliefs. Now, I don't mean anchor in the sense of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming anchoring, for those of you that have studied that at all. What I'm talking about is they assume that their experience of a thing or their experience of the world is the experience. So there's an argument that, somebody says, well, what does snake taste like? Or what does that taste like? Or what does the other taste like? Oh, it tastes like chicken. Everything tastes like chicken for some reason. But here's the question. What does chicken taste like? I don't know. It tastes like all these other things. Your view of what chicken tastes like, and I'm sorry if you're a veggie, I apologise for going off the vegan route here, but your experience of what chicken tastes like, your experience of what potatoes taste like, your experience of what tofu, tuna fish, sparkling water, your experience of what those things are like is based on your experience. So you assume that everybody has the same sense of chicken or the same sense of tofu that you do. But how do you know? They've got their own mouth, they've got their own taste buds, they've got their own experience, they compare things in different ways, but we all assume that everybody experiences the world the same way we do. Let me give you an example. Let's say that, like me, you absolutely detest parties, networking events, all that sort of stuff. I will go, I'll do them. I can be incredibly sociable. I've even been known to be likable, apparently. I think that might be stretching a point a little bit, but I can go to these things. But my idea of hell is hanging out with all these other people. I just don't like crowds. And maybe you're like that too. So if you dislike crowds, when somebody says to you, oh, I went to this event the other week, it was absolutely packed, your immediate assumption would be, oh, that's horrific. It must have been terrible. You can't have had a good time. It must have been appalling. But they love crowds. So they're about to launch into this explanation of how amazing it was and all these hundreds of different people that they ran into, and it was great, and you could barely move. It was so crowded, and they had a great time. And you're thinking, oh, it must have been terrible. Oh, poor you. People react to different things in different ways, but we assume that everybody views the world the same way we do. And there's absolutely no reason that we should think that, other than our view of the world is the only one we've got. We can empathise with people. We can try and build rapport with people. But each of us views the world based on our experiences, what comes in through our five senses. And we experience the world based on that. But we anchor the assumptions of the rest of the world based on our experience. And that's why we talk about our experience of the world, because we're trying to explain our view of the world to other people. And then they try and explain their view of the world back to us. And we just keep doing that with each other. You can't help it. The same is true even for people that you know most, that you have the most familiarity with, that you love and you cherish, even your family and your loved ones. You still do that, maybe to a lesser degree because you've got common experiences, but you still do that. People talk about themselves. People think about themselves. There's no quotation that a bore is someone who insists on talking about themselves. When I want to talk about me, that's true of everybody. But the reality is that nobody is thinking about you. When you go to stand up on your hind legs to make a presentation, they are willing you to succeed. not because they think well of you or they want the best for you, well, maybe that, but also because they don't want to waste their time. They don't want to sit there and cringe as everything goes wrong. They don't want stuff about them. That's how people work. That's how people think. And if you take a second just to pause and reflect, you might find you do too, because you're human. Let me give you another quote. This is from a film that my partner introduced me to, which is Beaches, starring Bette Midler. I know it's a weepy and actually it's a great movie. Watch the movie; it's terrific. But there's a quote from the Bette Midler character, and she's talking with somebody. She says, "Look, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me?" And so much of human experience is based around that. Let me give you an example. I've mentioned in other videos that over the years I've trained over 135,000 people in person, and we used to do some quite sizable events. We had there's one particular event I'm thinking of. It was in a hotel in London, and we had I think about 500 participants there from probably 45, 50 companies. And in the front set of tables was a person I call Dave Boy. Got to know him really, really well. Terrific guy. And Dave Boy had brought the first 10 of his colleagues down. He was looking at potentially rolling the training out to, I think, 150, 160 salespeople altogether. And we're there and we get through the first session, which is kind of a warm-up session, introductory session, because it's a 3-day program. And we're into the second session, so we're late on in the first morning of the event. And we're talking and everything's going well, and I'm talking about how this works, that works, the other. It's all going swimmingly, everybody's having a great time, except for Dave Boy, who's on the first set of tables, and Dave Boy's going at the front, not even looking at me, just like, oh, this could be better. So I'm looking at someone on the front row of the training. We're 3 hours into a 3-day course, and he's going, ooh. Okay, Houston, we have a problem. So I spoke with my business partner, and during the break, she went and had a bit of a chat with Dave, because Dave Boy looked pissed. Frankly, he'd spent a lot of money for him and his guys to be there. He looked pissed. So Wendy went up and had a chat with him. I said, how's things going, Dave? He went, oh, it's fantastic. And she went, good, great. I didn't expect anything else, because she's quick. I didn't expect anything else. I'm glad you're enjoying it. You look like you got a, you look like you were having a colonoscopy. You look like you were having a hard time during the first session. Oh, he said, no. So I was just thinking back to some of the other training courses I've been on, and just thinking, oh, I wish I'd come across this earlier. I wasted all this blooming time. Okay, that's interesting. It was one of those moments that makes you sit back and go, right, okay, yeah, missed that one. People's view of the world is based on their experience. The way they react to the world is based on their experience. And you can't mind read what somebody else is thinking or feeling, because like Dave Boy wasn't angry or frustrated with me and what was going on. Dave Boy was in his head talking to himself about all these other experiences he'd had and how they'd wasted his time and made him feel X, Y, or Z. That's human experience. People aren't thinking about you. They're thinking about themselves. That doesn't make them mean or selfish, and I'm not being cynical. People are trying their best to interpret what you're saying and doing and fit it into their experience and their anchor of the world. And people do that by talking to themselves about themselves, or talking to you and other people about themselves. So let's say you're making cold calls and you interrupt somebody during their working day, and they're a bit huffy. It happens. Less so if you've watched the video about crushing objections before they even happen. But let's say they get a bit huffy. they're not actually huffy with you. They're not pissed at you. They're pissed at their day being interrupted, or they're pissed because they shouldn't have. They said they shouldn't be interrupted. Why has the call got through to them? Or they're pissed because they've lost the flow in their writing. But it's not about you. It's about what your speaking to them on the phone means to them. But it's not about you. It's not personal. It's not aimed at you individually. So even if they fly off the deep end, which it doesn't happen often, but I've been on the end of it, and even if they do, it's still not about you. It's actually about them. And that can be difficult to get your head around sometimes, but it's always true, I promise you. Now, the extension of that is that people are most critical of things in other people that they are afraid of or insecure about in themselves. Let me just repeat that one. People comment about, are critical of those things in other people that they're afraid of or insecure about in themselves. So you might think of politicians, for example, who call other people liars, con men, cheats. Not naming anyone in particular, but I'm sure you can think of a couple. Those politicians who call other people liars, con men and cheats, well, maybe, just maybe, they know deep down in their hearts that actually they're talking about themselves. It's called reflection. It's a very well-known, very well-established psychological process. People attribute to other people the feelings that they have about themselves. It's similar to anchoring. It's kind of an extension of anchoring, where people assume that because they don't like crowds, you don't like crowds. In the same way as they feel themselves to be con artists, they assume that everybody else is. That's the way it works. And again, it's not about you. When people say things like, oh, salespeople, they're all scum, they're not talking about you. They're actually talking about how they feel when they go to do a sales call. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't make any sense, actually, but that's the way people work. Oh, con artists, you're just out there for what you can get. You're just out there to rip people off. Are they talking about you? Or are they talking about themselves? Or maybe, just possibly, they're even talking about times when they got ripped off by somebody. And they didn't get ripped off because the other person was a salesperson. They got ripped off because the other person was someone who ripped people off. That's not about you, though. And the ultimate truth about fear of rejection? Well, let me give you another story. Many years ago, we've all had experiences that you look back on, and if you're one of those people, unlike me, who is capable of experiencing shame. I'm lucky, I'm a freak, I can't. I am totally and utterly shameless, as you've probably gathered. But I had the experience, not the same event I was talking about. This was a much bigger one. We had, it was a very short program, and I was the key speaker. I'd got a 2-hour session for thick end of 10,000 people. I don't regard this as the people I've trained. This is just an event I was at. So this is just an extra set of 10,000 people. And I went, I did my thing. I was the lead up to lunch, and went, did my thing, and everybody's having a great time, and it went really, really well. And there's somebody else that comes on and does the 15-minute section just before we go to lunch, just round up the morning sessions, one of which was mine. And I come off stage bouncing with energy. I think, oh, that's okay. I dash to the loo, go to the loo, process the Vindaloo that I'd had the night before. And as I'm concluding on the throne, the toilet door, the door to the gents, bangs open. And one of the sound engineers runs in and goes, like, What are you talking about? And I got my mic on. I got the radio mic on, the hot mic, while I was processing a hot curry. What do you do? what do you do in those circumstances? Well, the simple answer is you survive. It happened and I lived. I got through it. It was embarrassing. We all laughed about it because if you've ever done public speaking and you've had a mic on, at some point, I promise you, you've had a hot mic moment. Just one of those things. It just happened. Was it slightly awkward while we were having lunch together? Yeah, it could have been, but I just took the viewpoint that, well, I might as well laugh because, it happened. They all know it happened. What do you do? Obviously, the sound engineer had cut the mic off once he'd realised what was happening. He turned the input down, but, it was a bit awkward while they were working out what was going on. If I can get through that, you can get through a slightly iffy presentation. If I can get through that, you can get through a slightly iffy cold call. I'll tell you what though, you have absolutely had your equivalent of a hot mic on the toilet experience. You know you have. You've had moments that you look back and you go, ooh, and you have this, it's like you've been eating a lemon and your sphincter contracts and you go, oh, God almighty. Yes, we've all had them. And you're still here. You got through it. The real truth about fear of rejection is you'll survive. You've been rejected before and you're still here. I don't know, you've tried to go on a date with somebody, you've asked somebody out and they've gone, no, I'd rather sandpaper my eyeballs than go out and have a drink with you. No, under no circumstances. Now, maybe it wasn't as severe as that. One of mine was, but that's a whole other thing. But so what? You're alive. All that means is they've just made space in your life for someone who does deserve you. My bet is that if you're in a great relationship now, you're only in that great relationship because that other person said no. That rejection led you on to great things in the future. I'm sure you can think of loads of examples of where you've been rejected or experienced rejection and just went, okay, and you got through it. You survived. Maybe occasionally in the 2:30 in the morning thing, you go back in your head and go, yeah, that was a bit. But so what? You're still here. And by the way, use the tools that we talked about in the psychology of fear of rejection just to make it go away, or at least take the meaning away. Here's the example I always give in a business context. Let me talk about trying to close a deal with somebody. You've gone to the trouble of getting an appointment, you've met them, you've done a fact find, you've come up with a solution, you've presented the solution, and now it's time to close the deal. And your palms go dry and your mouth starts to sweat, or the other way around. And all the heebie-jeebies go, start running through your head. Well, turn them down, push them away, take a deep breath in, think about what you want instead, sit up nice and tall, and then just remember this. Right now, you don't have that client's business. If you ask them to do business with you and they say no, what's changed? When you walked into this meeting, when you started this conversation, you didn't have their business. Now, as you leave the conversation, you still don't have their business. You've literally lost nothing other than a little bit of time. You've gained some experience, but you've lost nothing. You can't lose what you didn't have in the first place. Like me with dignity. If you didn't have the business when you walked in and you don't have the business when you leave, as long as you've not been obnoxious, rude and objectionable, as long as you've been professional and straightforward and human, then you've lost nothing. You've still got the opportunity to contact them again and hopefully do business again in the future. It's amazing how many of your best clients, how many of everybody's best clients have said no the first 1 or 2 or even 3 times. That doesn't mean it's no forever. It just means, nope, not now. And that isn't about you. It's about them. It's about they are renegotiating with their current supplier and they want to see how that pans out before they commit to going with you. Or they're about to go legal with their current supplier and they don't want you sucked into that because it might screw up the case. Or they've had a really bad morning. They got out of bed the wrong side. They put their trousers in they put the legs in the wrong legs of the trousers. They got in a traffic jam on the way to work. Their coffee was cold. Their boss has shouted at them and they're just pissed at the world. But it's not you. It's not you that they're hacked off at. It's not even your company. It's the situation. It's the morning they've had. It's the instructions they've had from their procurement department that they're fighting and they've got to line up all the politics in order to go with you. It's anything that happens in the real world. It's not about you. I know that's a difficult message, but not everything in this world is about you or even about me. It's all about them. While I'm talking, you're not thinking actually about me. You're thinking about what my words and my ideas mean to you. Does that make you a bad person? Does that make me a bad presenter? Well, hopefully not to both. But that's just the way people are. It's not about you. The reality is that in most business situations, we are just not that important to them. They've got their own lives, they've got their own situation, they've got their own business, their own career, their own issues to deal with. You're just the one that's in front of them right now. And do those issues bleed into this one? Yeah, it happens. Does no mean you're a bad person? Now dare you ask me for the order? Never, ever darken my towels again. Nah, rarely. So how do you suck up your courage to ask for the meeting on a cold call? How do you summon up your courage to ask for the price increase or the deal or whatever else it might be? Well, as we talked about on the very first video, in the introduction video, you have to create the situation. You have to work on yourself so that your fear of missing out is massively bigger than your fear of rejection. You need to work on yourself so that your fear of missing out on your goals, your targets, your dreams, the lifestyle you want and deserve, all that good stuff that you want and deserve in your life. You focus on that. Focus on what it's going to be like when you blast through your targets. Think about the fear of missing out on all that as opposed to the fear of blushing. So you can have everything that you want in this life, but you're not going to ask for it because you might feel a bit awkward. Oh, it might be a bit scary and I'll blush. Really? It's not about them, it's about you. Now I know that slightly contradicts, in fact, even some of my other messages in other programs where empathy, rapport building, putting yourself in the other person's shoes are crucial skills, not just as a salesperson, but as a human being and as a leader. But that's a cognitive process, that's an intellectual process. I'm talking about the emotional process here. And our emotions are wired and hardwired for us as human beings. We can affect them, we can use them in different ways, but people are people. It's not personal. I'll give you one more example. Have you ever walked into a shop? If we're still in lockdown while you're watching this, you may remember at some point there was an experience of retail shopping where you actually walked into somewhere as opposed to just going online and buying from there. But if you can remember back in the past to when there was retail and shops and you'd walk into a shop and you know what you're looking for. You actually intend to buy something. It's just a question of finding it. And you walk in and the shop assistant walks up to you and says, "Can I help you?" What's the first thing that comes out your mouth? "No thanks, just looking." Liar, liar, pants on fire. You've gone in the shop to buy something. In 5 minutes' time, you're going to need help. you're going to have to go back to that shop assistant, or probably their friend instead, and ask them for the help you said you didn't need. Hang on. Were you lying to them because you're a bad person? Did you intend to ruin their day and make them feel bad? Was it your purpose when you walked into that shop to ruin that person's entire viewpoint of the retail industry? Did you want them to change career instantly because of this huge... No, of course you didn't. You just felt a bit awkward and didn't want to be hassled. It wasn't about them, it was about you. You didn't mean it personally, and they didn't die. It's not personal and it's not permanent. People get through it all the time. The truth is that the only person who cares about your fear of rejection is you. If you do get rejected, it really doesn't matter that much. It's probably temporary. And it might not even be real. No thanks, I'm just looking. That's the truth about fear of rejection. It's not necessarily an easy message to process, but it's absolutely true. Just reflect on it for a few minutes, and hopefully it'll be a useful piece of learning for you.